Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really cut through the noise and get to the heart of things. And today we're diving into something I think many of us feel pretty deeply. That sense of being overwhelmed, distracted, maybe disconnected. There's this underlying dissatisfaction sometimes.
Absolutely. It's very relatable.
Yeah, and the material we're looking at today, it's from Pavana Learning Group, a piece called Waking Up to Withstand the Flood, Part 2. It actually gives this feeling a name. The flood.
Mm-hmm. The flood.
It's a good metaphor.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it suggests this flood can create a kind of crisis of meaning because we're constantly pushed towards, consumption speed, surface level stuff.
Instead of depth, connection, purpose, those deeper human needs.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack this crucial first step the Source talks about for cultivating inner wisdom, the idea of waking up.
Okay, let's unpack this. What does it truly mean to wake up in a world that's constantly pulling us, well, everywhere else?
Well, before we can really talk about waking up, we kind of need to understand what we're waking up to. And this Source introduces inner wisdom as this deep, almost intuitive knowing, something that fosters clarity, real insight.
Okay, so it's different from just like book smarts or knowing how to do stuff.
Very different, yeah. It's not about just building more cognitive power or getting better at manipulating the external world, which, let's face it, is often where our focus lies.
Right, that's the default setting almost.
It is. And the material actually highlights two pretty contrasting takes on wisdom. You've got the Western perspective, which often emphasizes rationality, ethical judgment, the pursuit of a good life, think ancient Greek philosophy, but also modern ideas like emotional intelligence, practical stuff.
Makes sense. Knowing how to live well, make good choices.
Exactly. But then you look at Eastern traditions, and the approach is quite different. Wisdom there tends to emerge from deep introspection, spiritual practice. It offers insight into things like impermanence, interconnectedness. The focus shifts more towards harmony, inner peace, maybe less on intellectual mastery.
And compassion, humility too.
Very much so. Key elements.
So this Source tries to blend these. It offers this definition. Inner wisdom is a state of consciousness that reveals deep insights through a process of discernment. It involves an intuitive capacity to understand the interconnected dimensions of reality to make thoughtful decisions. That's quite a mouthful, but powerful.
It is. And the key thing here is how it connects directly to this idea of waking up. Waking up is framed as the absolute foundational first step. It's about expanding your awareness, reconnecting with yourself,
Yeah.
and accessing what the Source calls an interdependent or sometimes non-dual nature of reality. It's about seeing the connection.
Non-dual, meaning not seeing things as totally separate.
Kind of. Recognizing the underlying unity, you could say. And importantly, this whole process starts with recognizing, as the Source puts it, the water we swim in.
Ah, the assumptions, the habits.
Exactly. The conditioning that shapes how we see everything, often without us even noticing. That's where waking up begins, becoming aware of that water.
Okay, so this journey leads us somewhere. Well, pretty crucial. The Source talks about the ego-clinging mind. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. How do those Western and Eastern views on the ego differ? And why is getting that distinction so critical for this waking up process?
Yeah, this is the big one. The Source lays out a pretty clear contrast. Western psychology, philosophy, they often see the ego as, the core of our individual identity, our self-awareness.
The I.
The I, exactly. The part that mediates between our inner drives and what society expects. It helps us function, maintain a sense of self.
Okay, seems necessary.
From that perspective, yes. But Eastern traditions often see it very differently, as potentially an illusion.
An illusion?
A mental construct, yeah. One that actually obscures our deeper nature. And clinging to this ego construct is seen as a primary source of suffering, what they call dukkha.
Dukkha.
Yeah.
That's not just physical pain, right? It's more like dissatisfaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A fundamental unease arising from attachment, aversion, ignorance, all rooted in that ego clinging. So liberation from this view involves transcending the ego, letting go of that tight grip on I, me, mine.
Wow, that's a radically different way of looking at it.
It is. And what's fascinating, as the Source points out, is that some streams of modern Western psychology, like transpersonal psychology, are starting to align more with these Eastern insights. There's a growing recognition that actually moving beyond the ego, or at least loosening its grip, can lead to incredible peace, clarity, inner freedom.
So how do you start? How do you gain that ego awareness in a practical way?
The Source suggests a key practical step is identifying your habitual patterns, those automatic reactions.
Knee-jerk stuff.
Precisely. The things you do on autopilot, shaped by your past conditioning. The work is to bring those subconscious patterns into your conscious awareness, so you can move from just reacting to actually responding intentionally, making a choice.
It feels like the typical Western mindset might frame that as controlling the ego or maybe even diagnosing it if it's unhealthy. Is the idea here to shift away from that?
Yeah, the source seems to suggest moving towards a more integrated approach, less about control or pathology in that dualistic sense. And the starting point for this integrated approach, maybe surprisingly, is simply becoming still.
Stillness.
Yes, focusing on your breathing, cultivating concentration. These practices support that stillness. They help ground you. And it's in that stillness that your habitual patterns, your attachments, the workings of that ego-clinging mind, they start to become visible.
Okay, so if getting a handle on this ego-clinging mind is the first big step in waking up, how do we actually do that? The source breaks waking up into 3 pillars. Let's dive into the first one. Breathing. Seems basic, but clearly important.
It's foundational. We really start to see the ego in action when we slow down our reaction time. There's a great quote from Thich Nhat Hanh mentioned about habitual energy, he calls it, our compulsive tendency to act without thought.
Like grabbing your phone the second it buzzes, no thought involved.
Exactly that. It's compulsion. And the breath, in this context, is described as the medicine.
The medicine. How so?
It's like hitting the pause button. It creates that tiny, crucial space between stimulus and response, a space where choice becomes possible. It interrupts that compulsive tendency.
Ah, okay, so it's not just about relaxation, it's about awareness.
Precisely. When you're fully present, really engrossed in the moment through breath awareness, you can actually loosen the ego's grip. You find yourself in the moment rather than strengthening the ego by mindlessly clinging to thoughts about the past or future.
And the source offers a specific practice for this, right? Still point meditation. Can you walk us through how that works?
Sure. It's quite straightforward, really.
Yeah.
You place your attention gently on the natural flow of your breath, right at the tip of your nose, just noticing the air coming in, going out.
Okay.
To help deepen concentration, you can count the breath cycles. So an in-breath and an out-breath together equals 1 count. You count up from 1 to 10 and then back down from 10 to 1.
What happens when your mind wanders? Because it will.
Oh, absolutely. That's completely normal. The instruction is simple. When you notice your mind has drifted, thinking, planning, remembering, whatever you tracked rise, just gently, without judgment, redirect your focus back to the sensation of the breath at the nose tip, and you restart the count from 1.
So the wandering isn't failure.
Not at all. In fact, the source emphasizes this. The act of coming back to the breath is the practice. That repeated, gentle return is what strengthens the muscle of concentration.
Okay. And the benefits of doing this regularly?
They're significant. Deep, mindful breathing helps stabilize the nervous system. This directly reduces that feeling of reactivity, makes you less susceptible to distractions. It cultivates a sense of calm clarity, supports inner stillness, presence, really grounding you.
From breathing, we naturally move to the second pillar, concentration. Now, you mentioned the source makes a distinction between concentration and just focusing. Why is that difference important for inner wisdom?
Yeah, that's a really key distinction. Focus, as we usually think of it, involves engaging the brain's executive functions. Zeroing in on a task, achieving a goal. It can be quite effortful.
Like cramming for an exam.
Exactly. Whereas concentration, in the way this source describes it, particularly drawing from Eastern perspectives, is more of a relaxed state of awareness. It's a deeper state that fosters stability, absorption, that feeling of flow. It can even lead to feelings of bliss, actually.
So less forcing, more allowing.
Precisely. It moves you beyond the ego mind's constant chatter, worrying about the future, replaying the past. It cultivates a profound sense of just being present. And in Eastern thought, this kind of concentration isn't just a mental skill. It's deeply linked to wisdom. It's seen as a pathway to transcend dualistic thinking, to access deeper truths. It's almost effortless when achieved correctly. It comes through relaxation and mindfulness, not forcing it.
Effortlessness through relaxation. That sounds appealing, but maybe counterintuitive.
It can feel that way because we're so used to striving. But think about it, the harder you try to concentrate sometimes, the more agitated you get.
Definitely.
This approach is more about creating the conditions for concentration to arise naturally. There's a quote mentioned from practicing jhanas. With the clutter of compulsive thought cleared away, the light of awareness becomes powerfully bright. The source suggests this state isn't something we need to build from scratch. It's already there within us. Our task is more about relearning how to access it, how to recognize it. As they put it, by relaxing awareness into concentration, we access creativity, purpose, and deeper meaning.
Okay, so how do we cultivate that kind of concentration? What are some practical ways, drawing from maybe both Western and Eastern ideas?
Well, the source lists quite a few, which is helpful. On the brain and body side, things like brain games, Sudoku, chess, puzzles can help train attention.
The focus aspect.
Yes. And also hobbies that require detailed attention, like knitting, crocheting, things like that. Physical activity is also huge. It boosts neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin to help with focus. And then from the Eastern side, you have practices like Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga. They integrate mindful movement with breath and awareness, which is fantastic for concentration.
And meditation beyond the still point.
Absolutely. Different forms of mindfulness meditation, walking meditation, guided visualizations, these all train concentration. And then there's the practical stuff. Actively managing your environment, taking regular breaks, counterintuitively. Breaks help concentration, maybe listening to calming music or nature sounds. And crucially, removing obvious distractions. Turn off notifications, mute the commercials.
Simple but hard to do sometimes.
Very true. But the payoff, according to the source, is significant. Cultivating this deeper concentration helps us move through different levels of consciousness, of intentionality. You go from being mainly reactive, just acting on impulse.
The default mode again.
Right, to becoming more reflective, thinking about your actions, your thoughts, then maybe proactive, choosing your actions based on purpose and values. And ultimately towards being receptive. This is described as a state of being fully present, open, really attuned to the interconnected nature of reality, seeing the bigger picture.
That's a powerful progression. Okay, that brings us to the third pillar, consumption. Now, this might seem like an odd one to include when talking about inner wisdom. What does the source mean by consumption here, and how does it tie back to that flood idea?
Yeah, it might seem out of place at first, but it's critical. Consumption here is used really broadly. It's not just the food we eat or the stuff we buy.
So what else?
It's the information we take in, the entertainment we watch, our digital interactions, our constant seeking of social validation online. Even our underlying motivations, what drives our choices. It's everything we take in.
Ah, okay. A much wider net.
Much wider. And the source argues that this constant, often mindless consumption, heavily fueled by our digital world, traps us. It creates habits like doom scrolling, chasing perfection, compulsive multitasking.
Things that leave you feeling drained and scattered.
Exactly. Cognitive and emotional fatigue, a fragmented sense of self. And this, the source suggests, deepens that crisis of meaning we talked about earlier.
So how do we get a handle on this? The source uses Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings on the 4 nutriments to explore this, right? Let's break those down. What's the first one? Edible food. Seems straightforward, but what's the deeper layer?
Right. Edible food is the most obvious or physical nourishment. But the point here is about mindfulness. Mindlessly consuming junk food or just ignoring our body's basic needs, sleep, exercise, hydration, nutrients that directly impacts our mental and emotional state. It worsens stress, anxiety, fatigue. The source connects this to the broader cultural pattern, prioritizing speed and convenience over genuine quality and well-being, even with food.
So how we eat reflects how we live, in a way. Okay, what about the second nutriment? Sense impressions.
Sense impressions cover everything we take in through our senses. What we watch, what we listen to, the conversations we engage in, and the environments we're in.
Content of our lives.
Exactly. And the source warns that overindulging in negative or shallow stimuli, think endless scrolling through social media, sensationalized news, toxic online arguments, clickbait, constant negativity. It's like feeding our minds junk information.
And that sows seeds of
Anxiety, anger, fear, dissatisfaction. It depletes us mentally and emotionally. This sensory overload keeps us trapped in cycles of distraction, distress, and unease, fundamentally undermining any sense of meaning or groundedness.
That makes a lot of sense. What we feed our senses shapes our inner world. Okay, the third one. Volition. That sounds a bit more abstract.
Volition is about our intention, our will, our motivation, what drives us.
The why behind our actions.
Precisely. And the teaching here is that when our volition is fueled by things like greed, craving, fear, aversion, it inevitably creates suffering for ourselves and often for others. The source links this to the transactional worldview, always needing more, needing to be better, feeling like we're not enough. This constantly feeds unhealthy volition and disconnects us from deeper, more authentic values and purpose. We lose our way, driven by the wrong things, essentially. And the final nutriment, consciousness. Consciousness here refers to the collective contents of our mind, the thoughts, emotions, perceptions we generate and consume internally.
So what we feed our own minds with.
Yes. If we constantly feed our consciousness with negativity, rumination, judgment, worry, we perpetuate our own suffering. But if we consciously nurture it with mindfulness, presence, kindness, positive thoughts, we cultivate clarity, insight, even joy. Habits like doom scrolling or obsessive multitasking are highlighted as ways we essentially hack our own attention, impairing cognitive function and keeping our inner world chaotic and unstable.
So across all four, food, senses, intention, thoughts, it's about mindful awareness.
Absolutely. The source really hammers home that the sort of transactional, often mindless nature of modern consumption constantly works against cultivating inner wisdom. And this is where the first two pillars, breathing and concentration, the core of waking up, become so crucial. They are the tools that help illuminate this ego-clinging mind and reveal how it drives these often harmful consumption patterns.
So waking up is what allows us to even see these patterns clearly.
Exactly. It's the essential first step to break free from being on autopilot with our consumption. It empowers us to start making conscious choices about what we take in and, maybe more importantly, why we're taking it in physically, mentally, emotionally, and how we begin to navigate the flood instead of just being swept away by it.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening right now, trying to navigate your own life? This deep dive really suggests that waking up, using intentional breathing, building real concentration, becoming mindful of your consumption, this isn't just another self-help trend. It seems to be about accessing something deeper, a kind of inner wisdom that gives you the clarity, the resilience to handle the sheer complexity and distraction of our modern world.
That's right. And it's presented as just the beginning, really. The source indicates that waking up lays the essential groundwork for what comes next. Phases they call growing up, cleaning up, and showing up. Together, these apparently form a more complete path towards cultivating that inner wisdom and living life with perhaps greater meaning, resilience, and authenticity.
It really makes you think, here's something to maybe mull over. Given how much our world, our technology, our culture seems almost designed to encourage mindless consumption and keep us distracted, how might our daily choices, even the really small ones, be quietly shaping not just where our attention goes, but maybe our very sense of purpose and how connected we feel to everything? Lots to consider there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.